Hi, good morning, Mystic Travelers. Um, I felt kind of a message today, so I wanted to talk to you about a current connection that you're in. And this isn't going to be for everybody, so if this resonates with you, then please stay, and if not, totally, it's okay. Um, I feel like that there's been a big collective movement of understanding attachment a little bit better. And whether you understand it literally or you're just finally feeling like something is off when it comes to a certain connection or connections in general in your life, like repeating patterns and things like that. So I feel like your guides, rather than wanting you to push away these feelings and concerns, it's time for you to dive in deeper. Like, there's so much energy of love from your heart, but have you questioned your own love towards this person? Not questioned that they were treating you wrongly and that maybe you need to leave them because of their behavior. That's valid. That is the usual, course of action in these situations. But when you're finally able to release this connection, if it's in a toxic way, isn't like an avoidant or a chasing situation or a trauma bond situation, what are you questioning? What are you alchemically transmuting within yourself so that you don't fall into the same pattern again, right? So I feel like your guides are saying that whatever the situation is, if you're called to this message, whether you guys have already split, whether you're thinking about going no contact, whether you're still confused about it, just remember space and time, it gives you so much clarity. And if you are confused, I say this all the time, if you are confused, you need to take a step back and spend that time with yourself. There's this feeling that these kinds of attachments give you, that it's a feeling of urgency, of profound loss. And one of the reasons is that trauma bonds or chase dynamics or urgency dynamics, it takes your power away from yourself and it hands it to that other person, right? So taking time to step back, get out of the confusion, make sure that you are in control of your own mental state, of your own emotional state. Because you and your perception controls your life. If you hand that power over to somebody else, or they hijack your brain chemicals, because remember, these kinds of chase dynamics in trauma bonds, whether it's with an avoidant who does it on accident or a narcissist or someone who does it on purpose, they trigger certain things in your brain that make you addicted to this person. And this is so hard to hear because you don't want to think, oh, I got addicted to something. You can get addicted to a person. You can do everything right, and they love bomb you at the beginning, and your brain, gets addicted to that. And, chemically, if you're a woman, your brain wants to attach quickly because of oxytocin. So I don't know, I just feel like that you need to be made aware that, like, if you got caught up in one of these kinds of connections, to not blame yourself or be upset or wonder why it's so hard to let go. You know, you're not doing anything wrong. You just, so I always say we rise to the level of our wounds. So when you would be able to, like, when the pain or the clarity becomes enough for you to let go, you'll be able to. But then that's when the real work starts. Like once you're able to kind of get to that space. Sorry, I'm trying to lock this because it's the light is changing. When you're able to get to that place, you're going to think, oh, you might be mad or upset. Or you might even, you know, it's so strange. You might still be like, oh, I still want this person, but I just know that how they are now. You might even use hope to get that you're going to get back together, that they're going to figure it out as a way to move forward. And when this happens, sometimes it's just the space that you need to get the clarity because you're working through this. You felt like something was off from the beginning, but you overrode, either due to the trauma bond chemicals or, you know, because intermittent reinforcement, where somebody breadcrumbs you or goes back and forth with you constantly, those things are like, you know, I read somewhere that that's like one of the most torturous psychological things one person can do to each other, to another one, which is to abandon them over and over again. So breadcrumbing, future faking, these things are incredibly cruel. And, excuse me, parched. And so if you're going through this and it's taking you longer to get over it, like say you didn't even have to be in it very long. Let's say you're in it 3 months or 6 months or something. It can feel like so impactful that it could feel like you could be 3 months or 6 months or a year out and you're like, oh my gosh, why does this still hurt so bad? It's because you didn't just lose a person, right? If you think objectively about this person, they probably weren't all that in a biscuit too. It reminds me of this meme where it was like, what I look like versus the guy I cried so hard I almost puked over, and like, I don't know. He looks a mess and you look gorgeous, you know, or vice versa, obviously, if whatever your gender identity is. But it's not the person a lot of times. It's the fact that they gave you 10% of awesome or 20% of awesome and 80% of anxiety. And that sounds crazy that's what, but it's the intermittent reinforcement. So by giving you the 80% anxiety and pushing your feelings so low, when they gave you that 10% or 5% or 20% of attention, your happiness, your elation was so much higher than it would have been in a more stable relationship, therefore causing a sort of cycle of a cycle of feeling like this person's the only one that can make you happy. And so after that happens, you need quite a bit of time to rebalance, right? I know after trauma bonds, a lot of times people can't feel like intimate pleasure, or they can't, food doesn't taste good. And it's because your brain chemicals were hijacked, but they will even out again, right? They will even out again. And so just be gentle with yourself. And remember, your guides want you to know that this is a process, and it was the lightning bolt to give you clarity, right? So you don't fall into these patterns again and again and again. You had to learn this. in order to not repeat it. Because obviously, like I said, we rise to the level of our own wounds. So if this is how your nervous system is conditioned because of how you were raised, therefore you're going to keep repeating this until you finally learn this lesson. So you're going to keep, it's going to keep coming at you. I mean, people could say, oh, this is the law of the universe. It's also just the law of common sense, right? If you don't know, then you're going to fall into the same pattern. And so I feel like if you're here and this is resonating with you, then you're ready to break the pattern. You're ready to move on, right? You're ready to truly heal this. And it's going to be really hard because your next relationships might feel very underwhelming, right? But that underwhelming comes with stability. It comes with peace. It comes with letting go of drama, letting go of being attracted to drama. And it's funny because you might not even be dramatic yourself, but you feel like you have to fix other people or that their drama is your problem. But you need to step off that field. You don't need to get mired down in their mud. You don't need to be confused all the time. Like I said, catch it early in the future. You're confused early. They disappear early. They are inconsistent early. Now you know. Now you know. Those are flags. That's information. Does it mesh with you? Do you want to end up in another trauma bond? Do you want to end up in another breadcrumbing or future faking situation? The answer is no. Instead, you need to focus on cultivating your peace. Cultivate your peace so that your vibration and your energy is attracting someone else who values peace. And you're giving your brain and your system time to detox and reset. So focus on somatic exercises. There's some online, some great ones. Breath work, maybe vagus nerve reset. There's videos on YouTube about that. Really just getting your nervous system out of survival mode that these kinds of connections put you in. Okay, beloveds. I'll see you next time. If you like this kind of content, let me know, and I will do more kind of channeled work this way. But until then, I will see you next time.